Millions are betting on who will be the next pope, but no one really knows, not even the Vatican. The Sistine Chapel is sealed, cell phones confiscated, signals jammed. Behind closed doors, 133 cardinals, cloaked in red and centuries-old tradition, are casting ballots that could shift the future of the Catholic Church, and with it, global geopolitics. On the outside, a different kind of ritual, speculation. More than $30 million has been wagered across platforms like Polymarket and Kalshi. The betting lines look more like a presidential election than a papal one. Odds fluctuate, frontrunners fall behind, and long shots suddenly surge, all without a single leak from inside the Vatican. Because that's the rule. Secrecy is sacred. No phones, no emails, no whispers to the outside world. The cardinals have taken an oath of silence. The only signal? Smoke. White if they've chosen a pope. Black if the ballots fail to deliver a 2/3 majority. Day one, black smoke. Still, the world watches. Tens of thousands are packed into St. Peter's Square, necks craned, phones raised, news cameras camped, analysts on every channel. But here's the twist. Even Vatican insiders are calling this election completely unpredictable. This conclave, said one theologian, is like no other in history. Why? Because Pope Francis, now laid to rest, radically reshaped the College of Cardinals. He appointed over 100 of them, many from nations long overlooked, Asia, Africa, South America. He shattered the European dominance. This is the most globally diverse conclave ever assembled, and that makes the outcome harder than ever to call. The betting markets have a favorite, Cardinal Parolin, Italy's current Secretary of State, a career diplomat, seen as a moderate. The safe choice, but not without controversy. He was the architect of the Vatican's 2018 deal with China, a deal many now view as a diplomatic disaster. Under Parolin's watch, China appointed bishops without Vatican input, directly violating the agreement. When asked, Parolin doubled down, insisting dialogue was still alive. Critics called it weak. Others said it showed naivety. But Parolin remains a frontrunner, at least according to the odds. Right behind him, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle of the Philippines, a progressive, charismatic. Some call him the Asian Pope Francis. Young by Vatican standards at just 67, Tagle is beloved in Southeast Asia and respected in Rome. But insiders say his gentle persona might lack the political edge needed to govern a global church. Then there's Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, another Italian, socially liberal, politically savvy. He was Pope Francis's envoy to Ukraine, a sign of trust and rising influence. But does Zuppi have enough international backing to break through a divided college? And don't overlook the outsiders. Cardinal Peter Turkson of Ghana, Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo of Congo. Both men would make history as Africa's first pope in over 1,000 years. Then there's Pier Battista Pizzaballa, the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, a dark horse with deep ties to the Middle East and a strong conservative base. But all of that, the odds, the frontrunners, the analysts, might mean nothing, because conclaves are rarely predictable, and favorites often fall. In fact, the old Vatican saying goes, "He who enters the conclave as pope leaves as a cardinal." Outside the chapel, the world watches smoke. Inside, the cardinals watch each other. Every vote is cast in silence. A folded slip of paper, a quiet walk to the altar, a drop into the urn. Each name written in anonymous script, each tally whispered, then counted by hand. The requirement, 89 votes, 2/3. No easy feat in a conclave this fractured. But what's at stake? Far more than a title. This election is about the direction of the Catholic Church in a world pulling in every direction. On one side, the progressives, Tagle, Zuppi, and others aligned with Pope Francis's vision. A church of inclusion, humility, and mercy. One that speaks to migrants, embraces LGBTQ Catholics, and breaks with dogma when compassion demands it. On the other side, the traditionalists, cardinals who yearn for clarity, not compromise. They see Francis's reforms as dangerous ambiguity. They want doctrine restored, discipline reinforced, and the Vatican shielded from political winds. And in the middle, the diplomats, Parolin, foremost among them, not loved, not hated, steady, predictable, safe, unless China's shadow proves too dark. But there's a new force complicating everything: geography. Asia now holds 23 voting cardinals, Africa 18th, Latin America 17th. These blocks didn't exist in previous conclaves. Pope Francis changed that, and now his appointments are reshaping the Church's center of gravity away from Rome. In Africa, the Church is exploding. In Asia, it's rising. In Europe, declining. Western churches are emptying. Abuse scandals, cultural secularism, financial rot. There's a quiet panic beneath. In Africa, the Church is exploding. In Asia, it's rising. In Europe, declining. Western churches are emptying. Abuse scandals, cultural secularism, financial rot. There's a quiet panic beneath the red robes. How do you lead a church that's growing in the global south, but dying in the west? Some say the answer is Tagle. Others say it's Turkson or Ambongo, maybe even Pizza Bala, with his quiet diplomacy in Jerusalem. And then there's the unexpected surge of American interest. Robert Prevost, a U.S. cardinal with rising buzz. But experts say an American pope is highly unlikely. There's deep wariness of a pope from the Anglosphere, says Oxford historian Dr. Miles Pattenden, especially with the current tensions between the Vatican and U.S. politics. It could alienate more than it unites. Still, betting markets list him, because in the absence of facts, people bet on narratives. Meanwhile, the cardinals are facing their own demons. Financial collapse looms. The Vatican's balance sheet is bleeding red. Scandals, both sexual and fiscal, have eroded trust. Internal bureaucracy has become a punchline. Many inside the conclave believe the next pope needs to be more than holy. He needs to be competent. "We need a Superman," said Cardinal William Goh of Singapore. Not just a theologian, a leader, a CEO, a communicator who can speak to Gen Z and bishops in the same breath. And that's why, despite controversies, Parolin still holds cards. He's fluent in diplomacy, respected in Rome. And while his China deal may have failed, his defenders argue he's the only one who tried. "The Vatican needs working relationships with world powers," said Michel Chambon, a researcher in Shanghai. "You can't ignore China. You can't ignore the world." But tell that to underground Catholics in China, betrayed by state-installed bishops and silenced by government crackdowns. For them, the 2018 deal wasn't diplomacy. It was surrender. Parolin owns that deal, and it could cost him the papacy. As voting continues, rumors swirl. One cardinal, name unreleased, reportedly received 37 votes on day 2. Still far from 89, but a sign. Another candidate, Tagle, Zuppi, had early momentum, but lost steam. The buzzword inside Santa Marta, where the cardinals sleep, artichoke. Cardinal Vesco of Algeria joked to reporters before the conclave, "Every day I say, ah, there it is, the heart of the artichoke." The metaphor fits. Layer after layer, hidden, revealed slowly. And at the center, a name, a decision, a pope. But who gets there first? Day 3. Morning Mass in the Pauline Chapel. A quiet procession back to the Sistine Chapel. Tension hangs heavy in the air. The cardinals are tired. Some haven't spoken a word in 48 hours. Others have spent the nights pacing the marble floors of Santa Marta, praying, negotiating, reconsidering, because this vote could be the final. 2 rounds in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. If no consensus, the conclave pauses for a day of reflection. But whispers say a breakthrough may be near. A coalition has formed. Parolin still leads the ballots, but he's stalled. Zuppi has picked up steam among moderates. And Tagle, he's the wild card, the candidate who divides opinion but unites the hopeful. Then, the news. 84 votes. Zuppi, 90 votes. Tagle, silence. One name has crossed the threshold. White smoke begins to billow above the Sistine Chapel. The crowd erupts. Phones rise. Bells ring across Vatican City. Habemus Papam. The world stops. Who will it be? Inside, the chosen cardinal retreats briefly to the room of tears. There, he dons the papal white cassock for the first time. A moment of solitude before a lifetime of scrutiny. Then, he returns. From the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, a cardinal steps forward. Annuncio vobis gaudium magnum. I announce to you a great joy. Habemus Papam. We have a pope. The name is read aloud. And as the crowd gasps, a new chapter begins. But this is just the surface. Beneath the white cassock, beneath the applause and the headlines, the real questions begin. Who is this new pope really? If it's Parolin, expect a Vatican of calculated diplomacy, a steady hand, not a revolutionary one. But his China deal will haunt his legitimacy and may force a firmer stance moving forward. If it's Tagle, it's the first Asian pope, a man of the poor, a communicator, a bridge between continents and between ideologies, but also a lightning rod. He will face fierce resistance from conservative factions. If it's Zuppi, you get a skilled peace builder, a veteran of conflict resolution, someone who's spoken to Putin's advisors and Ukraine's leaders, but also a man with strong ties to the Italian Church, which could revive accusations of Eurocentrism. No matter who steps forward, the world's 1.4 billion Catholics will be looking for answers. Will the Church stand with migrants and LGBTQ people? Will it clean up its finances and bureaucracy? Will it confront abuse with transparency and justice? Will it find relevance in a digital world or retreat into ritual? And beyond Catholicism, geopolitics. A new pope means a new voice in the global arena. How will he handle China, Russia, the West? Will he expand ties in Africa, defend Christians in the Middle East, push for peace or confrontation? The papacy is no longer just a spiritual office. It's a platform, a stage, a seat of soft power. And who sits on that seat matters. Cardinal Ambongo said it best. I am not here for Congo. I am here for the universal church. That is the weight the new pope must carry. The shepherd not just of a flock, but of a world. From the ashes of black smoke, a white signal to the world. The Catholic Church has made its choice. Now the real test begins, not for the pope alone, but for the church he now leads.